Hi there everyone, welcome back to Aiden's Railways. Now I often get messages and emails and things like that through social media about certain videos that I've made and things like that. And one I often get messages and emails about is a loco that appeared very briefly last year during lockdown 1, and it only lasted for about a few seconds in one of the videos, and it was one of Aiden's customs. It is a interpretation of Hank from the Thomas programme. And people keep asking how it was made or what did I use and all that sort of thing, or they just want to see it a little bit more close up. So I've bit the bullet, here it is, and hopefully it'll answer a few questions for you. So something I often receive an awful lot of messages about is this locomotive. This is a custom. It's something that Aiden has asked me to make in the past. In fact, it was made last year, which never got around to making a video. And to be honest, it's still not quite finished. But because I keep receiving so many messages about this, it did appear very briefly in a video last year. I've took the opportunity to sort of get it out, and then we can take a look at it and you can see what else I need to do to it, but you can also find out a little bit more about it. So I've had to take it out of the boxes that it's been living in. This is it's an interpretation of a locomotive from Thomas. It's to go down as Hank, and Hank is a 462 locomotive on Thomas, and this is a 462. It's not perfect in its representation. It's not absolutely identical body-wise, but it is incredibly close. The tender is really close. Now, this actually started out life as a Triang Hiawatha locomotive. They are quite old. Do have quite large flanges on the wheels and things like that as well. And there's a couple of different versions to it. There's two different types of plastic that was used, and one of them is like a polystyrene plastic, and one is a acetate type of plastic. And as a result, the acetate version has a tendency to bow. I want to try and put some pictures in so you can see what I'm on about, because I actually ended up with about 3 of these tenders until I could find one that was, as you can see there, reasonably straight. It took an awful long time to get hold of a tender that wasn't the acetate version. This body, however, I've just found a stray hair on it. This body, however, is actually the acetate version. Now, you might not see it very clearly on here, but there is a small bow to the body. So, like I say, Aiden made a request. He asked me to make, or see if I could make a Hank for his railway. So, first things first, the face here is of a Trackmaster Hank. They're reasonably quite easy to get a hold of. I think I picked mine up off the marketplace on Facebook. I think I paid about £5, maybe £7 for that model, and it was purely just for the actual face. The face actually has a spine on the back of it in the centre, which is ideal because on the Hiawatha model, and I can't take this off because I do think I glued it on. Yes, I did. There's actually a hole in the centre where a light, a small wheel grain bulb sort of thing, was at the front of the locomotive, so it gave me a position which was perfectly centre for the face to go onto. There's only a few colours that have been used. The blue is actually from the rather large tin of paint that I've got for my Longmore locomotives, and it is actually the Oxford blue, and it is incredibly close to Hank's blue. I think I used some Virgin Red, and I haven't actually quite finished the wheels yet, but they are there. I didn't need to take the connecting rods off or anything like that. I just removed the body from the chassis. Moving the wheels around using some sort of electrical current means you can get in there, and if you do get any onto the connecting rods, I just used a bit of thinners on some cotton bud sticks. So I did the lining by hand, really. It isn't particularly excellent. It's not absolutely straight, but I was working with a model from, well, way older than I am. But I got the actual donor vehicle anyway from Mick at Durham Trains of Stanley. I had let him know that I was after one. It didn't need to be in excellent shape because I had a plan for it. So cosmetically, as long as I could repair it if it needed to be. It didn't need to be in the best condition. This item does actually run, which is even better. So let's take a closer look at Hank here. So obviously the quality isn't great. You can actually just see here, you can see the TR4335. That's Triang Railways and the fleet number. Now, like I said, it's not absolutely identical to Hank. I am not going to put a picture of Hank up on here because I do not want a copyright strike for that. But if you want to find out exactly what Hank looks like, simply Google Hank from Thomas and you'll get a load of images come up straight away. It's supposed to be an American outline locomotive Hank, hence the name Hank. And for such an old logo, it actually does have a reasonable amount of detail inside the cab area. You can see it there. I haven't picked it out because if I put some crew in there for Aidan, you're not really going to see it, and it is a very enclosed cab. There's a reasonable amount of detail on the roof, and you can actually see how the body, you can see the screw there, is attached to the chassis. There's one screw there, and I believe if you take this pony truck off here with this screw, there is a screw underneath there as well, and it just sort of slides out. I don't know whether I'm going to DCC this or not because it is an old Triang motor, but it does run really well. There's plenty of moulded detail in the way of pipes, but not all of those details are predominant on the actual Thomas program, so I've kind of left them in the Oxford blue and just sort of picked out the handrails with some grey. This is actually Intercity Engineers grey that I've got along here, and I haven't done an amazing job because I do want to dirty this up. I don't want it to look pristine. And one thing that is actually apparent, although it's moulded on these, is on Hank he actually does have some air pumps, and amazingly enough this model actually had some moulded ones on the side, so I've picked them out with a bit of silver. There's not a huge amount of painting going in. It's all done by hand, which might be apparent to some people, but I've just done it freestyle by hand. I had a very, very boring afternoon of nothingness to do during the first lockdown here in the UK, so this is how this came around. I think it was not long after I built the working Deltic, so it was when Aidan was giving me a lot of tasks that he wanted to sort of see done. So the actual donor vehicle it's been in the collection for quite a while. I got a hold of it. I knew I was going to do it at some point for Aidan, but never got round to it, and of course lockdown 1 gave me the opportunity. So as you can see there, the flanges are really quite big, so it's not a great one to be going over points. Same with the plastic ones. Could change them, but I don't see the point. Used a bit of brass, sort of, I think it's like a copper colour Humbrol paint, just to pick out safety valves, the bell, and that sort of thing on the top. So I'll just put the loco over there. So these bodies, you can see the actual bogies are riveted on like a brass rivet. They've got a weight inside, and you can see there the Triang logo, made in England and a lot older than me. It looks like the previous occupant previous owner had some trouble with the coupling at some point, and they seem to have glued it down with some kind of adhesive, but as long as it's got the coupling on the rear, that's great. That'll do me. One thing that's missing off the tender body at the moment is actually the red lining, similar to what Hank has on his boiler. There is actually meant to be some red lining around here, but I need to use some water slide transfers for that, and although I've got them, I haven't actually got round to doing it. So everything on it is pretty much moulded detail, all the rivets, and you can see the separated area with the rivets as to where the coal would be, and the water itself. It's a reasonable amount of detail on there. I'm not too sure. Yes, this one does come off. So you can see the actual coal load. I can adapt that if I want to, but it looks reasonably okay, and you can get inside. So I could put potentially a Traintech steam sound module in there, and that would work just fine. I could even remove this red bung here and put in a proper red tail light, but for a cheap and cheerful conversion, this is ideal. I did take the wheels off the bogies to do this. They just push through. The pin actually pushes through from one side, and then you can lift them out. It's quite a complicated way of doing it, but it seems to have worked over the years. So you can see the moulded detail at the back, rivets, that's where the light would be, handrails, and of course the ladders to get onto the back. And exactly the same on the opposite side. Now, like I say, I did hand paint this, but I did have to put a spray primer onto the body parts before I actually did it, because it involved putting quite a bit of masking tape and paper around things like these bogies, because I can't remove them with them being like a brass rivet. Trying to paint directly onto the black, because of the type of plastic it was, it wouldn't work. And but there it is. People have asked, and finally I've listened, and I've given a little bit more detail into Hank. But like I say, it's still far from finished. There's a few more characters like this that Aidan has asked me to make, and I just haven't got round to finishing them, or we haven't began them. But there are quite a few. But everyone kept asking and sending me messages, whether they be via Facebook or the Aidan's Railways Facebook site, or Instagram and Twitter and things like that. And people keep asking about this loco that appeared very briefly in a video last year, and they wanted to know about it. So it's a very simple conversion. Get a hold of a half decent Triang Hiawatha loco and a decent tender, and as you saw from those insert pictures, some of them can be very, very bent and warped. If you can get a hold of the decent ones, it's very simple. Some Oxford blue, some virgin red paint, some engineer's grey, and some copper brass coloured paint. And if you can get a hold of a Trackmaster Hank for his face, lovely fella, I like him, he's a bit like Neville, then it's a very, very simple conversion. But I think its popularity with people asking questions has more to do with the Flying Scotsman conversion that we did. What was it, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, when we did the Flying Scotsman conversion. So there you go. I hope that was of interest to you, and if it's answered some of the questions that you had about this particular item. You may not have seen the video that this appeared in last year, but there it is. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed, click on the round button. If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch some more, there's another video at the top of the screen, and there's a playlist at the bottom. See you again soon.